All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 157 tonight. We're going to be doing a review of the documentary, My Octopus Teacher. So that's definitely a good one. Go check it out. And I think that it's probably one of the better documentaries I've seen recently. What do you think, Maurice?
Yeah, I'm always cruising the airwaves to find something good to watch, and that thing stuck out to me. I don't know if I heard about it online or something, but I indulged and I enjoyed it heavily. So we'll be talking more about that.
Did you get into it because it was about like filmmaking? I mean, they did a really good job considering it was all underwater for most of the documentary.
Yeah, it's funny. I just got this little drone. I've been flying around the Mavic Mini, having a good time with that, and I thought, taking it to the air was just a whole new way to look at things. But then I watched this documentary. Now I want to get some underwater equipment. Start getting down into the nitty-gritty of the sea, baby.
All right. So before we get started, why don't you nice, beautiful, amazing people out there. Oh, Maurice has got the shirt. He's holding it up, folks. New shirts, and I'm actually wearing one, baby.
Oh, the big boy. You know
Mine's
what I'm saying?
a little bit more high def, you know. But yeah, so we have those. I don't know if we're gonna have many. There's some of them already spoken for, so we might not have that many left. But we're also gonna look into some cheaper options because we're gonna be selling those for $30 a piece. But we're trying to find a cheaper option. But yeah, so go head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For $2 a month, you'll get exclusive content. We also have some other tiers on there if you want to check those out. And also head on over to indrasweb.org and sign up to get an alert. This is the app that we created. It's for lots of different topics, ancient civilizations, fringe science stuff, just outside the box thinking, whether it be, whatever you can think of that has some sort of like a fringe to it. And the reason why we did that is because you go online now, all these other apps and social media apps, they're telling you what you can and cannot
You're
say.
getting skewed.
And we're not. It's nothing controversial, but I think that when we're talking about ancient civilizations, psychedelics, UFOs, all that kind of stuff, it's nice to have a place where you can discuss these things with like-minded people. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with the app. So go to indrasweb.org, sign up. You will get an alert when the app goes live. And I think we're going to be working on a promo video here for that coming out soon, and that'll be probably ready for the release of that app. So go check that out.
Beautiful.
All right. So My Octopus Teacher. My wife actually mentioned we should watch this, and then like 4 or 5 days later, you're like, hey, we should do an episode. You should watch this documentary, and I didn't watch it yet. So we ended up watching it, and I really liked it. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was sweet, and I think we were talking about it when we were talking about an alien. We had an alien episode going, and we were kind of talking about how octopus are genetically just so different than us. There has been some theories floating around that they might have landed on Earth if people are into the panspermia type things, and they might have evolved at a different rate than different creatures inhabiting the Earth.
Yeah, we'll get into the panspermia hypothesis and all that regarding all this, because I did read that scientific paper that you're talking about that came out last year.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that later because that's kind of away from what the actual documentary is.
Right.
So, spoiler alert, if anybody, I don't really believe in spoilers for documentaries, but if you don't want it ruined, I guess turn this off now. I think the guy's name's Craig, the main guy that the documentary is focused on, and it starts off with him talking about how he was so depressed, and he was like a filmmaker and photographer, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was helping his brother. He created a documentary about these crazy hunters from Africa, this tribe where they can track like anything. But then he was talking about like as he got older, he was just worn out and depressed and didn't really have much going on, I guess. And he just couldn't take it anymore. So
Yeah, as a budding filmmaker, I can definitely relate to him. I can't yet, but I could see how being in the grind and just because when you're doing a film, man, it's nonstop filming and then the editing, and then when you're not editing, you're working on notes and stuff like that. So a lot goes into these projects that people kind of just when they watch them, they don't really know what goes in behind them. And then when you start kind of doing little projects yourself, you see how much goes into them. So I can definitely relate to or I can understand how he could get burned out on something.
And shout out to Sandy. This is actually takes place where she's from, which would be South Africa. I think this is by the Western Cape in South Africa, where this guy did all this. There's these kelp forests in these like little coves or these pools.
Yeah.
And that's what made, I think that was what made this documentary partially so interesting, is if you look at like the exterior of where this pool of all this stuff's happening, what is it, like 100 meters, he said? It's like not even that large of an area where all this was going down. And everything outside of it is these crazy waves breaking. There's no way you could film anything in like the external areas. So it was these old growth kelp forests in these little pools that was like protecting this little like ecosystem in there. And you have, octopuses, you have sharks, you have, different cephalopods, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and one thing you didn't mention was how cold the water is. And he talks about how at first it's like just shocking to the body, but then he almost gets addicted to it, the way that it makes him feel. It's almost like a drug.
yeah, I forget what temperature. I think he said it goes down to like 4 degrees Celsius. It would be like the
Crazy.
colder, which is crazy. But the other thing is somebody's like, well, or he talked about like not wearing a wetsuit and stuff. And like you mentioned, you just get used to it. I mean, he went into that pool or the ocean where that was, I think, every day for a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was depressed. So the whole thing starts off with his backstory and how he got into this thing. So he just decided one day, because he grew up going in the water in these like pools and diving and free diving and stuff. So he was trying to reconnect with his younger days and his it was his younger days, and he was trying to reconnect with nature in a way. And I think he found it was a common the whole documentary revolves around the common octopus, which there's obviously different types of octopuses, but this specific one he made a connection with. The interesting thing to me about this documentary is actually, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to the end, but just this. He set out to do something and he did it. And I don't think there's a lot of people in the world that could have done what this guy did. And I think that's what made it such a fascinating documentary. Like, it's overcoming the cold in the diving, and it's being able to hold your breath for a super long time. It's also being a professional photographer and being able to capture this stuff going down in like real time. So I think that those were all, massive points to what made this documentary what it was.
Yeah. It's also interesting to see, like I said, you see a lot of drone stuff, but you don't see as much underwater footage. And I was just blown away by the level of cinematography that was incorporated into making that.
Well, it's very crisp and very clear. So like he catches things like like a shark chasing the octopus down. He catches, the movement and the octopus camouflaging and like, maneuvering around different things.
Yeah, doing its thing. He must. I think he had insane amounts of hours of footage, because he just has shots that he must have been just camping out and waiting. I mean, that's how a lot of these National Geographic guys, like if you watch like Planet Earth or something, they're sitting there waiting for countless days trying to get that perfect shot. And when they do, man, it's probably a massive celebration for them. But it's a lot of that's just waiting and being patient, and that's a lot of being a landscape photographer anyway.
Yeah, and the footage is really crisp, because I was thinking to myself early when the documentary first started, I'm like, is this gonna be like, like you can't see anything under there, and but
Yeah,
you can pretty
real murky.
you can see everything pretty much. And like I said, I was just blown away by this guy's ability to like keep up with these little chases and these little things happening down there. And but so the interesting thing about the tracking thing that I mentioned. So he shot a documentary with his brother, and shout out to Sandy. She mentioned the Kalahari Sand Tribe. So when he followed these trackers, what he did was he kind of picked up some ideas and like kind of what they got into. So when he actually was trying to figure out what was going on with this octopus, when he made like contact with it, he was trying to track it at first, because if you're going to do that every day, you have to find this thing. I don't think it's enough to just find the octopus's lair or the octopus's home or whatever you call it. I think
Garden, if you will.
yeah. All right, Ringo. So you have to be able to track this thing, and he said it's like one of the more impossible things to track because they don't really leave like a specific mark, because they're always, they're using their tentacles 1 second, and then they're walking on shells, they're walking on this, they're walking on that. They're floating around. So he was able to start tracking this thing down via like looking for how it like consumed foods, like little crab bits and shells and different things like that. And he would find like these like hallmarks of the way the octopus feeds and stuff. And usually I think the octopus is very nocturnal, so it's very active at night. I think that's when it hunts. So he was able to dive at night, and that was what blew me away too. I mean, you're diving in this kelp forest in this cold water. There's sharks, there's other stuff going on, and that would be pretty ominous to me, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to be pretty confident that you know the wildlife enough to, I guess, what lurks around that area. Even the sharks that are there aren't too dangerous to human, but still, you're going down in those waters, man. You got to have some.
What was that shark? It was called a pajama shark, I think. Is that what? Let
me see.
I think it's a pajama shark because they had like these stripes, and he said that that's why they're called that, because it looks like they're wearing pajamas. But so every day he dives down. He does this for a whole year. So I didn't know this watching this, but I guess the life cycle of an octopus is very short. So yeah. I think the common octopus, they say, only lives like about a year, and after they breed, they die, both male and female. They just start to like rot away. I think the longest living ones are the Pacific giant octopuses, and those can get up to, I think the biggest one recorded is like 30 feet tentacle span and like 600 pounds. That's pretty big.
That's insane. Yeah.
Imagine running into one of those in the dark. I mean,
well, when I was thinking about him, I thought this thing was going to be massive, and then you see it in the water, and it's bigger than his hand, but it's not much bigger, and I was kind of shocked at the size of it, and that's a full-grown one. But I guess I was more thinking about like the squids and stuff like that.
We'll get into some squid talk at the end too, because I don't think that the squid. I mean, I think they're intelligent because I have seen some stuff on them, but I don't think they're nearly as intelligent. I think octopuses are probably one of the more intelligent species. I think it's definitely they say the most intelligent invertebrate there is.
Oh yeah. Well, after seeing some of the activities and the way this thing outsmarts its predators.
And he likened it to like the intelligence and the emotional intelligence of like a dog or a cat too, because when he makes contact with this thing, it's putting its suction cups, and I guess he can control each suction cup individually on its tentacles. And then I want to say that they have like their own they have like a different style, obviously, of like nervous system and everything. So it's the way that we think about like our fingers would probably be similar. He's like, imagine having 200 fingers and feeling every inch of it. That's crazy to think about. Now, I don't know, this documentary was weird in the sense that I started to think about, I love animals. I mean, I tell everybody I'll swerve for a chipmunk in the road. Not that you should. Well, you're not supposed to, but I mean, that's just how I am. I love animals and wildlife, and I'm a sucker for all those movies on social media and stuff when they clean these animals up and save them and stuff like that. So, but at the same time, it's like I was thinking, we're so different in the sense that we can manipulate our environment, and it almost seems unnatural to us. Like we create things that create things, and we create robots, and we create technology, and we create material that wouldn't be found anywhere in nature and stuff like that. But what does it really mean to be like conscious like us? Like, is it possible that octopuses, if they lived a lot longer, could they get to our level? I was just thinking about stuff like that. And if think about all animals, I look at there's videos of crows doing amazing things, and like some of those birds, like the gray parrot, and some of these animals and birds and stuff are super super intelligent. So as much as we're different, I do think that there are other species on Earth that we can communicate with, dolphins, all that kind of stuff.
Well, we know that the dolphin is super intelligent.
Yeah, and was
I know
it
you're
John?
gonna.
No, I was gonna say John C. Lilly trying to communicate, via the ketamine experiments and the float tank and all that kind of stuff. And
Well, some people were saying that he was like in love with them again. I
no,
don't
it
know
was
if
his assistant, and yeah, there was some sort of thing there. You just have to read those books, but yeah, I mean that kind of stuff's not unheard of either. But when you look at the intelligence thing is really what caught. I mean, when you were thought about when animals before this documentary, did it change your opinion on animals or marine wildlife or whatever afterwards?
I always had a camaraderie for animals. I've been thinking about getting a dog personally, but yeah, I never thought about invertebrate as anything like that. So it opened my mind where it's like if we don't know how these creatures can interact with human or interact the way that it would play with fish and stuff like that, like what else are we kind of missing out on it? And I think that's a big a thought that a lot of people have is what do dogs know? Because everyone looks at a dog and these things can either a dog or a cat they can notice different things that a human can either hear a sound or just notice an energy or something like that. So yeah, I think about that a lot. Like what can they perceive?
I mean, I feel like I'm telepathic with my cat sometimes. Because in my head I'll be thinking, "Don't do that" or something, and then it'll just like turn on a dime, or she'll turn on a dime. So, and just like plain, I think it's dogs and cats are both equally intelligent in my eyes, but I think they have a different type of intelligence. Like dogs are more there to, they say man's best friend. They're there to like serve you in a way and like be your companion. And when cats just kind of do their own thing, and they're more, I don't know. I think that cats can like our cat's done some things where I'm like, what? I mean, I've had dogs my whole life. I've never seen a dog do something like that before. So there's certain things like that, but it just depends on the situation.
Well, I was always not a big fan of the cat because I was allergic to him. So just inherently, I was just like, I want to stay away because I'm gonna sneeze, my eyes are gonna get all watery. But then my ex-girlfriend had a cat, and I think every 7 years your body kind of readjusts and stuff. And I never was allergic to this cat, but it would know if I was down, this thing would come and lay by me, and I actually grew quite fond of the cat. And then I opened my eyes to the species altogether.
Hmm. Yeah, when we lived on that house on Opal too,
Yeah.
Chris had that cat, Max. We would see this thing
was an
like
animal.
5 miles away. It was an outdoor cat. And then it would bring dead birds and whatever other stuff and leave it on the
It presents
porch.
its food,
And
its bounty to us.
And then late at night in like the cold, frigid winters, this cat would like tap on the upstairs. It wasn't even like the lower levels. It was like the upstairs second level window somehow, tapping on the window to be let in. So
Yeah, what's interesting is when me and my ex-girlfriend moved into this apartment complex, we would let the cat out and stuff. It had its claws and stuff like that. I felt if you don't let the cat, I want the cat to go out in its natural, and out in nature in its natural habitat. I felt bad about trying to keep it indoors and not letting it be the animal that it is within. So but this was her cat, so these were her rules anyway. Anyways, we let it out, and it's a new apartment complex, and I think it wandered too far. I don't know what happened, but this cat literally went away for like 3 days, and I went searching for this thing every single day because she was super sad about it, and she would, be tired from looking, so I would go out at night, and then one day the cat came back, and it was just like a normal day. I was like, wow. But where it went, what it did, I would have loved to put a camera on this thing and just saw what it was doing. It was probably hanging out on porches, eating mice, having a time of its life. But the cat is a lot different than the dog. The cats are just like, I don't know. You look at them and like the dog relies on the human. I feel to
Yeah, that's what I
live.
was just saying. It's like the cat does its own thing. It's its own.
Yeah.
It thinks. I was reading this article. It was like the cat thinks you're the pet in like a certain way. I mean, I can buy that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, if that thing was like 70, 80 pounds, it might be gnawing on you. So
well, that's
I
that's
respect
the
it.
problem with people that have like tigers or bears or things like that. I mean, once it gets to a certain weight, you can't overpower that thing, so you're done. So the people that have, and it might just be like a momentary lapse of, it shows its animal instinct, and that's all it takes with something that big. So, but back to the octopus. So there's some definite, there's like some dramatic parts, and then there's some like action parts, and then there's even some sad parts. I mean, it gets kind of sad actually. I wouldn't say it was like crying or anything, but the guy cries for sure in the documentary, and I feel for him. Like I
Yeah.
feel his emotion and like his connection. I mean, they did a good job of showing him building this relationship with the octopus. But there's a part where the octopus is being chased by a pajama shark, and it gets kind of like cornered in this like little rock area, and the pajama shark bites the tentacle off the octopus and swims away.
Right.
And then this thing's like
Yeah.
alive, but it's damaged, and it finally
Uh-huh.
gets back to its zone, and then it grows this like little arm, like bink, bink, and it's back in, and this thing slowly grows back. But I don't know. I think it's crazy that they're that smart and they only like live like a year. And again, the giant Pacific octopus can live up to 5 years, I think. But just think about that, a year. What if this thing could live 30 years? How smart would it be?
Well, that's also a good a way to think about what time actually is to a creature, because we get these things in Michigan. We call them fish flies. I don't know if they're mayflies or what their actual scientific name is, but they only live 24 hours. But inside that creature, is that a lifetime? Does time move super super slow to it, or what the deal is there? I don't know.
Right. Well, we know that gravity has an effect on that as well. The more gravity there is, the more time slows down, and then you have like time dilation and that whole thing too. So, but you're right. How does that affect, um, you know, an invertebrate like the octopus? I don't know.
But to see what it does and to see the tactics that it uses to avoid being eaten, that thing is pretty darn smart. So I think
Well,
that comes into play where it's like, how did this thing evolve to be able to gain that knowledge and within such a quick time?
well, it's you look at the camouflage, and it's not just changing colors. It's actually changing textures. It's changing patterns. I mean, it's
Yeah,
doing the whole thing. I mean, at some points, I was like, if I didn't know where it was, like if they didn't show it change colors and get into formation, I wouldn't even have known that it was there.
right. That was one of the best parts I thought. I mean, I don't know how in depth we want to go. I don't want to ruin this for somebody that hasn't seen it, but it does show it. It shows it dreaming. Well, it shows it sleeping, and
We already
while it's
said turn it
sleeping,
off. You can go as in depth as you want. We already said
okay,
spoiler alert. Like I
right
said,
on.
I don't believe in spoiler alerts for documentaries unless there's some like reveal at the end, but that's not the case.
Yeah, but so it shows it sleeping, and as it's sleeping, it's changing colors and stuff like that. And I know there was I was reading another article about like, do dogs have dreams? Because it seems like they're doing something. It seems like they're reacting to something within their mind. If they are having dreams, then we know from our podcast what are dreams. We don't really fully understand that.
So have you ever seen the video of the octopus having a dream?
Yeah,
So I mean, and you can see like in the dream, it's changing shapes and colors and textures to like what the landscape of its dream is. Supposedly, that's what
right.
the theory is.
Yeah,
Which is that's crazy in itself. And I know they've given octopi or octopus. I think okay. So I did look this up.
yeah.
Octopi is actually wrong because octopus is a Greek, derived from Greek, and octa obviously means eight, and then
Mm-hmm.
pus or pos, P-O-U-S, means foot, so 8 foot. So it's a Greek term, and the octopi came from people assuming that it was Latin. I forget, there's some conjugation thing happening there, second and third person stuff that makes octopi wrong and octopuses the right way. So
Good. Yeah, I think I came to that conclusion because we're from Detroit. We're Red Wings fans. They throw octopus on the rink. So
yeah, and I was gonna mention that actually too. After seeing that documentary, I'm good. They were making a stink about throwing the octopi or octopuses on the ice because it was a tradition, and now I think they shouldn't do it.
right.
Throw some fake ones, get some plastic ones, whatever. Don't throw the real ones. Even if they're dead already, you're just contributing to. Because I don't think I'm never gonna eat octopus again.
I'm more of a squid man myself.
Yeah,
but,
calamari. I'm good. I'll eat it, but not octopus.
well,
I think there's an intelligence, and I hate to separate it like that, but I do think that it matters somewhat. And I've seen squid, and they're very, very aggressive, and they're not like loving. You can't go, look this up. These Humboldt squid off the coast of California, these things attack swimmers and stuff, like take bites out of them, and their beaks are crazy. So I do think that there is a difference between squid and octopus, and I think octopus are definitely more intelligent and emotionally intelligent.
yeah, I think that,
Go ahead, Sandy. Keep eating that calamari. I'm telling you, I'm eating calamari. These things are rabid. These squid, they're not the same thing. So
I think the documentary did a good job, though. Sometimes you'll watch a documentary and it's just fact after fact, but this one actually created a human appeal to it, and it had a nice little arc to it. And I got sad during the end when he went down there, and it's interesting. It's almost like his little friend found a lover, and then it pushed him away, but then it came back in full circle because he found it again after the male had left. And it had a very good conclusion, a real heartfelt conclusion.
yeah, there was so many things because it wasn't just about the octopus. It was also about this.
No, it was a metaphor for his life.
Yeah, but it was this
really.
man's journey, and through this journey, he reconnected with nature and found. Like I said before, I think what makes a great documentary is like the passion behind it. And if you're gonna do something every day for a year and just dump everything into it, you're going to be successful on some level. You're either going to get something out of it that helps you through your life, or you're going to, I mean, I just look at like craft, like somebody's craft or whatever, in ancient Greece, they'd call it like techne, you get this, you're getting something out of this skill or this trade that you're putting into it. And I think that since he spent a year doing that, obviously he was already a good cameraman. He shot documentaries before.
Well, he didn't shoot the thing. He had a crew with him.
So you don't think that he did any of the camera work?
He might have did some, but I was looking at the
who would have
credits.
who would have done the chases then? Because there's like chases where somebody's following the squid.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me look more into that.
Because he didn't direct it. I don't know. I forget the names of the people that directed it. I put it under the video. You can look under the video right now. I just don't remember the names. But two other people directed it, but he's like the main. His name's Craig, I think, is the main guy.
So cinematography was directed by underwater cameraman Roger Hurrox.
Okay,
and
so
with footage from Craig Foster.
So he did do some stuff
Yeah,
because like I was saying, there's no way you could swim around. Like if he's tracking this thing, is some other guy just gonna follow him around the whole time? I don't.
But there are clips that show him without cameras, and it is following him and the octopus.
Right.
So
I just figured that all that stuff was like the documentary part where it's like him sitting there being filmed and him walking and talking, like that kind of stuff. But
there's definitely parts where you can see that it's just him with like a smaller camera, and then
because it shows him dropping it at one point and then having to go back up and stuff. So
my take was that he didn't even know what he was doing, and I think there's a level of the magic to go. It wasn't like I'm planning to do this. He went there and it started to move him. And then because of that, he was already kind of filming, and then he ramped it up into a higher production. Because then after all of this happened this whole year, the parts of him sitting and being interviewed, I think he just did that after, and then that's like what tied all the footage together is him just telling his story after it all occurred. But I like that. I like having something kind of spontaneous
Spotting.
spontaneous blast. Like I'm getting all jumbled up here, but no,
That's what
like
we're gonna get a shirt. It's gonna say Wordsmith Maurice.
everybody knows they know Maurice is he gets lost for words sometimes.
No, we love you, you dyslexic bastard.
Right, right. Well, that's what they said in school. But no, is there did you have a particular part that really stood out to you as your favorite, or were you just kind of taking it all in?
I like the when he makes like first contact and he sticks his hand out and the octopus like latches on and just like is checking him out,
Yeah.
like because how does the octopus know that he's not a predator too, that just hasn't struck, was waiting to strike or whatever?
Right. Well, he definitely was visiting it. He visited way more, and then before, like, I think it did run away at first, didn't it?
Well, he did something where he like dropped the camera or something that scared it off once it was getting close to him or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and he was all mad at himself. He was like, "I had it, and then I dropped the camera and scared it away."
um, yeah, I honestly I think that part really struck a chord with me, just because it's like making contact with like an alien in the sense that you're in the ocean, which is kind of an alien realm. It's not our natural habitat. As much as we might have lived off the oceans for as long as we've been around, I still think it's not considered natural to us. But yeah, the fact that he just built up his breathing, and I don't know. I think that the communication I think that there was like a mutual thing going on there. Like, I think the octopus was studying him as much as he was studying the octopus.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But what
That's
does
really
that mean to
interesting.
the octopus? Because the octopus only lives for a year, and what is it getting out of? I think he even mentions that in the documentary. He's like, what was it? What was the octopus getting out of this? Because it had to have been somehow mutually beneficial.
Who knows? You're assuming that when you pass away that you're gone forever with that kind of comment. Maybe this thing was just I don't know. I'm more in the camp that everything's connected and we're all kind of some piece to this big puzzle that uh just we have different intelligences, but we're all kind of connected in some weird way, and that's I think there's a little of that in the movie. It's like if a man can connect with an octopus in some foreign weird underwater forest, then what else is out there? What
Mm-hmm.
other connections can be made?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, I I did think it was sad towards the end, and it gets kind of a tear. I didn't cry, but I definitely got a little emotional watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
I got as close.
I feel the same way, man.
I got about as close as you could, but
Right. I could have squeezed the tear out. I'm not gonna lie. I might have.
he's
All right.
squeezing the bottom of his eye to get the tear out. Um, but I did, like I said, I definitely feel for that Craig guy, because he had a connection to this octopus, and I wondered, is he still doing that? Is he connecting with other octopi or octopuses, or is he, what's going on there? I wonder what he's up to now, or if he's going to try and connect with something else. I think he should definitely do a follow up and see what other kind of intelligent animals that you can make those sorts of connections with, at least in the ocean. I know cephalopods. There's certain, so I think that's it was a mollusk, and then the class is it cephalopod, and then you have things like what are those called? You have the obviously octopus. You have squid, cuttlefish. I think cuttlefish can kind of do some similar things with like morphine and changing color and that kind of thing too.
The only way I've heard of cuttlefish is when they eat it.
South Park.
And yeah, they cuttlefish. No,
Um,
you know what I was relating it to when me and Michael were younger. Well, we still kind of do it, but we don't catch them anymore. But we would go hunting for snake and like turtles and frogs and stuff, and it's like you're on a treasure hunt. And then when you find them, it's like it's magical. So for him to go in there and then if he finds it the first time and then he goes back and he's seen it and then he finds it again, that's kind of the thrill. I can kind of relate to him with that feeling of journeying into the wilderness and finding a creature over and over again. But you're just letting it be. Now we're a little smarter and we see the turtles out on the river and stuff. We don't mess with them. I don't want to take them out of their natural habitat. I like
Well,
to
that's a
gaze
whole.
on
I
them
mean,
when they're
wild
living their
turtles
lives.
have salmonella. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why you shouldn't do that. But yeah,
Well,
I
we were
mean,
kids. We wanted them as pets. You know what I'm
yeah. I
saying?
mean, but again, like you just mentioned, you grow up and you learn. And again, I've always loved animals. But I think that when you get older, your reverence starts to become like letting them be what they are and just
Right.
accepting them for what they are, as opposed to like I want a pet or
Yeah.
whatever.
You're a kid and you find the a salamander. You touch this thing once and it's dead. And now you
Yeah.
just want to let these things thrive
And
and
now it's just fish bait.
yeah, those are like the most sensitive. Because when we were kids, I would love. We thought they were lizards. We didn't really realize what they were. They were an amphibian, and they were just so gentle
Hmm.
that I think like even like the oil from in your hand, or I don't even know
Yeah, they
what
have
was
like a
real.
mucus membrane that coats them that I don't know. I think it's actually poisonous to some things too, the mucus
Mm,
membrane. But I mean octopi or octopuses, I'm sorry, I keep saying octopi even though I already
yeah,
mentioned that that's
it's from
wrong.
it's from Detroit, man. Growing up, like everyone called them octopi, and
I
it was
mean,
just like
again,
ingrained in us.
it's in the Webster's dictionary too, but they even mention in this thing that I was reading that it's wrong. But it's just octopuses or octopus.
Well, I remember talking to my dad because he's a massive hockey fan, and we were talking about the octopus, and he's like, "No, it's not octopi, it's octopus." And then everyone started arguing with him, but I don't know where he got his information, but clearly he knew what he was talking about.
So Sandy mentions there was a recent article where these researchers accidentally found these underwater structures in Michigan, and I that immediately made me think there's actually stone circles underwater in Traverse Bay, Michigan, as well. And one of the stones supposedly has a woolly mammoth glyph carved into the side, and that's obviously that area is where all the glaciers and everything was carved out at the end of the last ice age. So, I mean, there's probably stuff. There's probably tons of sites in the Great Lakes having stone circles and ancient sites. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna follow up. Maybe we'll do an episode on that because I do think it's interesting.
Well, being a photographer, I'm always trying to find ways to stand out from the bunch, and everybody has a nice camera these days, and they're out shooting and Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. So, after watching this, I went online and I looked up a underwater casing for my camera. The case is the same price as the camera. It's like $1,500.
Um,
But
yeah,
that would be sick to do some. I always wanted to scuba dive. My sister went where did she go? She went to some island for her honeymoon. Can't remember the name, but it was like down,
in
some.
Thailand,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly where she went.
yeah,
And
Phuket Island.
yeah, she was scuba diving, but you have to train to do it, and they train you in Lake St. Clair. But I've always wanted to scuba. I know, one of our heroes, Jerry Garcia. He was a bigger dude. He loved going in the water, and he was a big scuba diving enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a whole different ballgame because you have to be really good in the water as well. Um, I don't remember your.
We're pretty trained.
I mean, I am. I was on swim teams my whole life. I don't
Yeah, no,
remember.
I'm pretty
I
good.
don't remember your level. I know you can swim,
Yeah,
but I don't
I would
know.
love to do it. I've even snorkeling. One of my friends loves to go to Australia.
Well, then we're gonna send you Travers Bay. You better get your shit together.
I
We're
just want to
sending
do
you.
the Great Barrier Reef. I think that would be spectacular.
Oh, for sure. That might not be around for too
I
long.
know,
I
I
know
know.
a lot of corals being destroyed by change in the ocean temperatures and stuff like that. So
That's a seven natural wonder of the world, correct?
I don't know. You might be right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of obviously cool stuff in the water, and who knows what we could find if they ever excavated anything. I mean, it's probably really hard. Obviously, I don't even know how you go about that. I know that they do obviously look for minerals and gold and stuff, and they have ways to excavate stuff, but it's I mean, for instance, like Lake Superior. I think Lake Superior is the deepest Great Lake, and
Oh yeah.
it gets
Yep.
super deep, like
Yep.
really deep. It might be
Do I have
one
to
of
go into Ed Fitzgerald song right now, man?
it might be one of the deepest lakes in the world. I don't know that to be certain, but I think it is.
Freshwater, I'm sure that's a big contender, but I'm actually going down to Miami this weekend, and I know the Bimini Road is right off the coast there. I don't know if you can charter
Yes,
something.
get us
What's the deal?
set. We're sending our correspondent out into the field, Maurice.
I don't know.
Shout out to Tasmaniac. I actually saw that article where there was the first Tasmanian devil sighting on mainland Australia that just recently came out. So it looks like that Tasmanian devil's coming back.
See, I tried to get my passport, and then with all the stuff that's going on right now, it was just like a massive wait. I got to get a passport though. I love traveling, and I'm a single guy, and I don't have a family right now, so this is the time to do it.
Well, you picked the wrong time to do it, in my opinion. With
Well,
everything going
yeah,
on,
I know, but
I mean,
flights
yeah,
are cheap.
you just got to be careful. Just take the precautions and be careful. And correspondent Maurice.
Well, nothing can get me in the water, baby.
Next time we go camping, though, we should go look for some weird stuff and see if there's anything recently made out there. If there's any ancient stuff.
Yeah, well, I know when we were up in the UP, there was all kinds of caves and whatnot.
That's why I was pissed we've never gone back there for our annual trip, because I thought that was probably our best trip in terms of like terrain and things to do. There was that blue quarry that we went rock diving, and then there was the underground cave system. I didn't think I was getting through that. This big boy body almost didn't squeeze through a couple of those crevices,
Yeah, we went spelunking in Kentucky in the Mammoth Cave system, and there's actually we took like the expert tour, and they measure you because there's this thing called the keyhole, and you have to like squeeze through it. I'm a smaller guy, and they turned away a couple of the bigger dudes. It's interesting down in those caves, man. It's crazy. Yeah, the light goes out and you have no clue where you're at.
Yeah, it's scary. Because I remember the one that we went in, there was no like right exact way. You just kind of had to find your way, and then you find your way out of it. It was like all moss covered to get down there. You could kill yourself just climbing down to get into the mouth of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and they all start in these like it's weird in the Mammoth Cave system. They start in these sinkholes, and it's like this big impression in the earth, and then you walk up and there's a metal door. Obviously the humans have been there, and then you open this door and it's like the Willy Wonka theme song starts, and you go into this wonderland. There's like a river in there and stuff. Yeah, I recommend.
Have you seen that cave system? Look this up. There's like a cave system. I think it's in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, where it's all these like massive crystals. I don't know if they're salt crystals or what they are. Have you seen a picture of this?
No.
Where instead of like
see if I can find something
stalactites and like the formations from above and below, it's just pure crystals. So I don't know where that was, but I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I can't share it or we'll get zinged, but let me see if I can find where it's at.
Like I said, I thought it was either in Mexico or South America, but I could be mistaken. But I do think that, I don't know, the documentary did change. I already thought certain animals and species were very, very intelligent, very smart. I mean, I watch a lot of animal stuff. I've watched all the Planet Earth things and
Love
National Geographic and Blue Planet, whatever. I love all that stuff. So, but again, like the ravens and the magpies and some of these birds, gray parrot, these things are super intelligent.
Well, it's cool too, because kind of what you were saying, it brings awareness to these creatures that you never even gave another thought to, and now you're just like, I don't want to eat that or something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's changed your whole view on the intelligence of a creature, what they're actually doing down there. I never thought twice about what an octopus is doing in the water.
Right. Have you seen? I think there's even videos where they gave octopus psychedelics. I think they gave an octopus MDMA, and it started doing that color changing. Yeah.
Did it start rave dancing? Or
no, it started doing that color changing thing it does when it dreams, I'm pretty sure. So they definitely have some sort of serotonin play going on there. So Maurice just sent this in Chihuahua, Mexico, those caves we're talking about. Um, I think that they did that with a spider too. They gave a spider all sorts of different psychedelics, and then they saw what kind of web they, could create. And
Oh, that's cool.
there's different patterns for the different psychedelics that they were given. I don't know how. I mean, how do you administer a spider a psychedelic? But
I don't know.
yeah, there. It really makes you wonder, like, what's going on there, and how are we so different? Like, what about our evolution made us that much different? They point to, the common ancestor, and we, evolved and we became who we are like 200,000 years ago. We became Homo sapiens sapiens, but it just makes you wonder, like, what part of our evolution did we just become this completely different thing than anything else on the planet, where we're able to like conceptualize our existence and ponder our existence in the universe, and then not only that, but then measure the universe around us. So
Right. Well, the measuring and the tools and all that kind of stuff, building things that build things, that's definitely something unique to the human race. But I don't know. Watching this and you see it playing and dreaming and all that kind of stuff, maybe we don't really. Maybe we're just instilling these views that these things are stupid, and they aren't.
yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think they're stupid. I also, I don't know. I think that there's different forms of intelligence. Like, some things are more emotionally intelligent. Even you look at some people are more emotionally intelligent than other people, and some people are just more analytically intelligent. It just depends. There's different types of intelligence out there.
Yeah, that's
Sandy
true.
mentions the stoned ape theory. I think that when you look at the recent book, The Immortality Key, and you look at like where our ideas of religion and like the idea of something greater or some higher power, and then you look at what psychedelics do, and then the next day when you come down, you want to change your whole life and be a better person. At least some people. We already talked about this many times before, that it doesn't have the same effect on everybody, and some people miss that message. But I do think that message is there to be discovered if one is seeking that message. So we'll do an episode on that, Sandy. That's a whole different topic. In terms of what you were talking about with the paper that came out last year about how some scientists were suggesting that octopus eggs might have hitched a ride on a comet, the frozen ice on a comet, and then landed here. And then I think that they thought the whole premise for that idea comes from the Cambrian period. There was the Cambrian explosion that you hear people talk about when they talk about evolution and stuff like that. And the paper had 33 authors. There's different parts of like the thesis and hypotheses. But the whole basis was there was a sudden burst in biodiversity around 540 million years ago. And they believe that this is due to some sort of, comet, or, something along, like, it would actually probably have to be a comet because of the ice and probably preserving the eggs.
Right.
And then they said, the octopus genome was mapped in 2015, and it contained many surprises. And one of them was that the octopus nervous system, the genes split from the squids around 135 million years ago. So that was like long after the Cambrian explosion. So there was a theory that maybe the squid got some sort of, virus or something like that eventually helped them evolve partially, or some of them, into octopuses. But I mean, reading it sounds like you can also account for the natural evolution of an octopus here on Earth. So it's not like it's like a guaranteed thing. Oh, for sure they came from somewhere else. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big proponent of finding out more, but then there's a part of me where it's like I don't want them to take these things out of their habitat and subject them to testing, and then what humans are going to do once they figure out the camouflage systems. They're going to weaponize it.
Well, I think that they probably already have. I think that this I mean, look at, if you look at like the peregrine falcon. It's the same thing as the stealth bomb. You know, like that's
Right.
where we get these ideas. And you know, like a helicopter is like a dragonfly. Like that's the only thing that can move forward and back. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's we've definitely taken a lot of cues from nature. But in terms of the whole, you know, octopus coming from somewhere else, I think, I don't know, after reading the scientific paper, I think it's an interesting theory, but I wouldn't say that it's likely that that was the case.
Well, when we don't know really where we came from, I jumped to figuring out where these other animals came from. Let's stick to the humans, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I do think that there's some interesting things in the article, though. Like I said, the split of the nervous system away from the squid, because most people would look at like an octopus or squid and deduct that they're very similar in some regards. So, and they're actually not in a lot of ways. So,
well, yeah, the squid definitely, it can't camouflage or anything like that, right?
it can. So, I think, I don't know which. Okay, so this was another. So, like, the squid, the idea of the kraken from like ancient times. Okay, so like release the kraken, or you know, that whole thing, the mythology behind that, I think is real. There's probably fishermen, because they found giant squid dead that are up to like 60 feet long. I mean, that's pretty massive. That could damage a boat, I would think.
Yeah.
And they think that they're probably even bigger. I remember there was a documentary from 2004 where this Japanese these scientific marine biologists, or these marine biologists, were at the bottom of like some deep part of the ocean, and this Japanese scientist like waited his whole life to see one of these squid, and they had some like thing where they had like a luminescent light that like a almost like a lure. And they finally caught a glimpse of this thing, and there was estimates that it could be almost like 100 feet long. So I mean, that's terrifying to think of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
and then the
deep
beak,
dark blue.
the beak of those things could crack, you know, a skull easily, for sure.
Well, I get nervous when we're on the Manistee River. It's an old big river, and it gets real deep. I remember our uncle said, "Go dive down and bring me a handful of sand." I got down probably a couple of feet, man. This thing went black, and I panicked. So the water that's a scary place to be when you just don't really know what's underneath you.
But so my point about the squid was they found like those squid that at the bottom are like fluorescent or like bioluminescent, like they create their own light, but they can also like camouflage too. I don't think it's the same thing as an octopus in the sense that they change texture or anything like that, but I saw a video or a picture of one of them doing it, and it was kind of like, you know, like you see those like snowballs on your TV when there's no signal, you know, like, but there's like ones that have like color, like there's color going through there. That's kind of what it looks like, almost like like chaos patterns of that.
Well, it says a group of animals, including octopuses, squid, and cuttlefish, all have the skill to change color, camouflage, obviously at different degrees, but
right. But the octopus, it was even like growing like little like nubs out of its head and tentacles and stuff too. So it was like looking like kelp.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, the color thing I knew, but yeah, the whole the texture of its body. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
And then weren't you talking about there was some account of this guy had an octopus in a tank, and going from one tank to the other and stealing fish.
I was watching this video. I don't know. I think it was on YouTube, and this guy was talking about how he couldn't figure out why all this fish from his one aquarium were going missing. He's like, "Where are these fish going?" So he put up a camera in this room, and his octopus was crawling out of its cage, like somehow like unlocking the thing and getting out at night, crawling down, walking across the ground because they can live outside of the water for, you know, a little bit. And it was walking across the ground, crawled up the side of the cage, took a fish, ate it, and then walked back to its cage and like locked himself back in. It was crazy.
Sounds like a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So there's a lot of those videos out there, so check those out. I'll try and find some of them afterwards and maybe put some links down below the video. I'll have to track them down though, because I don't have any off the top of my head. But
so is an octopus the most interesting creature? Is that what's going on
when
here?
you look at it, it almost just looks like a brain or like a human head. You know, It looks like you know, that like some people almost like, some of them look like even, I don't even know how to describe it, but it looks like a head with just like some tentacles, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like if you think about it, it looks like our brain, but instead of having like a nervous system, it just has tentacles.
Yeah. And clearly it can use them all individually.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part was when it was after the first attack with the shark, it it adapted and it learned and it ended up outsmarting this thing. It was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna spoil it. We'll leave some stuff in there because I want people to check this thing out, and if anybody checks it out and wants, to leave a comment or whatever, leave one below. But it's amazing how they can adapt so fast. Like you said, it only lives for a year, so it's like, imagine what you adapt to in a year.
Right.
What kind of skills do you gain within a year? But
And-
humans are a very slowly evolving creature.
Yeah. Once the eggs are fertilized, I believe the male starts to die, and then the female carries, until the point where the eggs are good, and then I think it slowly deteriorates as well. So,
Sad, but a part of life.
yeah. And it was almost like this guy was experiencing like a true full cycle of life, but it wasn't his life. It was this octopus's life.
Yeah, which actually probably reverberated down to him and made him appreciate the time that he has. Again, more, at the end, it shows him introducing his son to the place he was diving, and he was just like passing down his knowledge. And then I think at the very end, they had like a whole crew that was going out looking at stuff.
Right. And then at the end, it shows like him able to connect with his son, and his son ends up finding a baby. I don't care at this point. Spoiler alert. His son finds this baby octopus in a similar, like where they were, and at that point, it probably would have been around at the same time, so it might have been one of the babies. But what did they say? Like 200 million?
Yeah, they don't survive.
But only like a handful of them survive and grow up to. I mean, that's crazy odds too. Like what's going on there? Why so many?
Yeah, that's funny though. I didn't cry until it was the father-son part, and then it really struck a nerve with me.
Yeah, a real Austin Powers daddy wasn't there type scenario.
To take me to the fair or diving.
But yeah, I think that whole thing, it shows he wasn't able to connect with his son at the beginning because he was having all his own issues, and then through this process, he was able to rediscover, his own, thirst for life and connections with his family and son and everything. So,
well, yeah, it's a good example of how when you get exhausted as a human, you got to center yourself again. And it was cool because that diving stuff was like, it was, what he resonated with the most. So he got back to doing things that he really enjoyed, and then it actually like turned back into his work.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was I liked it, but yeah, it was sad. It actually puts you through the full. I would say it puts you for the full spectrum of emotions. It's exciting. It's interesting. It makes you happy at some parts. It's funny at some parts. It's sad in other parts. So I think that if you like those kinds of documentaries, I think it's a good one.
Well, that's when I gravitate towards any kind of movie, when it has when you laugh, you cry, you're excited, you're scared. If you can have,
what kind of music you like, bro.
Yeah.
Send me the saddest shit you've ever heard in your life.
Hey, man, I gravitate towards that, and it's not even necessarily because I want to feel sad. I don't know what it is, but ever since I was a kid, I think that's why I gravitated towards the Grateful Dead music. I remember I got thrown out of a party or something when I was in high school, and I went home and I was sad. I put on some Grateful Dead music, and it was even sadder, but it was like the sadness of me and the music kind of came together and made me feel better in a way. I don't even know how to explain it.
I think, yeah. I mean, it's the Dead sad, but let's face it, you're really getting into the Radiohead, and their stuff is very melancholy.
Oh, well, I've been getting into them for a long, long time.
No, I know, but I just meant we were talking about it last night. I was listening to some happy tunes, some Fish, some jams, and this kid's like, you got to listen to the sad stuff, man.
I didn't say you had to listen to it. I said check out the live in the basement.
I've seen him live, bro. Okay.
So have I. Don't.
Where did you see him live?
Little Caesars Arena.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was back in my drinking days though, and I don't really remember the whole. That's what that's what pisses me off. It's like I used to go to concerts, and it's like, all right, we're going to a concert, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna party, and then you pay all this money, and then you don't even remember the show. Then I started going to shows sober, and I'm like, wow, I remember the whole show. Same thing with vacations. Everybody goes on vacations, and they're like, oh, we're in Malibu, let's get hammered, But it's like, I want to remember the vacation. I just paid all this money, I just spent all this time on the airplane. And then I get there and everybody's drinking cocktails and getting out of control. Like I want to enjoy myself. I don't know. That's just my new
Yeah,
outlet.
I'm not. You know me. I'm not really a drinker, so.
No, but I went on our yearly canoe trip this year. Didn't drink a drop, and it was beautiful. I had a great time. The laughs were still flowing, and I remembered the whole trip. And it was like, now that's a vacation.
It's weird. This year was the first year I didn't regret not going.
Well, get back on the train,
No,
my.
I mean, obviously, it's like one of my favorite things. Maybe it was just the circumstances this year and with everything going on, but it was when I was younger, I would have done anything to figure out how to get there.
Right. Well, next year I'm strapping on a GoPro and I'm swimming the river systems, trying to find some kind of creature down below.
Uh, we should try and find some sort of. We should find Atlantis
Yeah.
in Michigan. Let's go for it.
You didn't know it was in the bottom of Fife Lake.
Oh yeah,
So I don't know. Do we want to do any kind of ratings for this, or do you just we just say it was a good doc and people should go watch it?
yeah. I mean, I'd give it a. I mean, I'd give it a 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite generous. I'll give it
A good
4.2.
backstory, quality cinematography. Um, like I said, this guy devoted a whole year. The best documentaries are the ones where people have devoted themselves to something
Right.
because the passion comes through usually. You know.
Yeah. I liked how this one was a little more spontaneous. Boom. Nailed it first try, folks.
He's cured of his dyslexia.
Nope. Nope. It's just beginning. But no, I liked how it was just more of a natural occurring thing where this guy needed to get away, and that's a big part of it. How he was just overwhelmed with his work and going and doing something that he loved all of a sudden opened this door into a whole new universe essentially, and we were along for the ride, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll give it a 4.2. I mean, you
Oh,
give it 4.9, you got nowhere to run. If they come out with something spectacular, what are you gonna give it?
you give it a 5.
That's no, there's nothing that's a 5, bro. You gotta have your standards.
I beg to differ. I would give Wild Wild Country a 5.
That's a multi-series one, right?
I don't care. It's amazing. It's 6 parts. If you haven't seen Wild Wild Country, check it out. I think it's one of the more well done documentaries I've ever seen. I like the phenomenon. I don't know what I would rate that out of 5, but it's good.
Well, if anybody has any other documentaries that we should
Well, I
check
want to
out,
do this
we're
one.
definitely open to it.
You got to watch this, The Way of the Psycho, not about Stan Groff. So we got to watch that one
And
about
that's
the
kind of
early days of psychedelics and that whole thing.
beautiful. All right, well,
So yeah, we're gonna probably do one on that. I mean, we're not gonna do a million documentary reviews. It just so happens that there's some good documentaries out right now.
and then don't forget about this bad boy.
Yeah, I don't know how many we have left, but we don't have a ton. We're already gonna send some out to some of our top escapees that are already, signed up for them, and then we do. You can go on to our Patreon. I don't know. I got to set it up still. I'm going to text Maurice tonight after and figure out how many we have left, and then I'll try and put them on our Patreon. And for $30, that's the price. But we're going to try and get some cheaper ones too. So I don't know how much those will be. It'll be a simpler pattern. We just wanted to get ones made with our logo and that whole thing. But I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we'll make like one of those. We'll do like those spoof shirts kind of things, where it's like a theme having to do with our show or something, not necessarily our logo. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
figure
I don't.
something out.
We're getting some questions of how much they are. I don't think we're actually selling them right now. I think we're just doing them through our Patreon.
Yeah, we don't have a store set up on our website, but if you just do $30 on our Patreon, you can cancel after the first month or whatever. You'll get a shirt. So,
Well, beautiful, my man. I enjoyed it.
and yeah, I think that's Maurice is gonna be out of towns. We're trying to get one or two more in before he leaves. And yeah. we have some guests coming up too the week after. I'm lining some stuff up now, so we'll mix that in. And while Maurice is gone, I'll finalize the Ancient Greece Part 5, Eleusinian Mysteries, and the Super Volcano Part 2. And then, so head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/MindEscapePodcast. For $2 a month, you'll get exclusive content. And for $30, you'll get a shirt. Like I said, you don't have to do $30 a month, but if you want to do $30 for the first month and then cancel, you'll get a shirt. So
wow, he just foiled the plan, folks.
It's not a plan.
No.
We're not out for we're not here to make the big bucks. I don't think.
No, I'm kidding.
We're slowly growing here. If people want to, contribute, awesome. We love that. I want people to spread the word about our podcast, because the whole point of our podcast, for anybody that hasn't listened or is just getting the message now, we're trying to put good information out there, credible information out there, like different takes on things and open-minded takes, and let people decide what's going on and try and get people talking about subjects that deserve more attention. So.
Yeah, but we appreciate it. We are growing slowly but surely, and if everybody would just tell a couple friends, we would greatly appreciate that.
We appreciate everybody. Thank you, Taz and Sandy, tonight. You guys are awesome. And shout out to Home Mycology. Shout out to the Snake Brothers. Shout out to Alchemical Mind and Martin. Shout out to anybody that's ever been on our podcast. We love you guys. And one more thing. Go to indrasweb.org and sign up to get an alert when the app goes live. And I think this is going to be awesome, because you can go on to Facebook or you can go on to any of these social media things and keep doing your thing. But this one will be dedicated to the topics that we talk about on this podcast. So I definitely think that it's worth it. And Sandy mentioned, please join our Discord. We do have a Discord. So check that out, and we're going to probably do like a fan episode, like a fan chat where it's like open talk with everybody on our Discord. So if you're interested and you listen to our show and you have Discord, check that out, because we're probably going to do some sort of episode where everybody has a go at it. So
beautiful.
And that's it. So check out my Octopus Teacher. Super worth it. And if you want to know what we're going to check out next, The Way of the Psychonaut is, I believe it's on Amazon. I think you can rent it for a couple of dollars now. I'm not 100% sure, but
nice.
So, and the link to our Discord is down below, so check that out. All right. Well, we love you all. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Cheers.